Creepers left to rise, buzz like crazy. Everybody's trying to steal my lady. Spiders in the mirror and feel this can't be right. Back to the scene of a Friday night, to a blessed collision still frozen tight. Spear drinkers, Cupid and the sound of her first chime. And why did you argue?
Hello my friends and welcome back to another reading vlog. I have hat hair because I just got back from the gym and so, you know, I have hat hair. It's fine, it's fine. It's no big deal. Hello, how are you? Did you have a good week? It's really bugging me. That's okay, we're just gonna go. It's fine, it's fine. It's very Flapper-esque, right? Like, okay, I'll stop talking about my hair. Anyway. It's a new week and a new reading vlog. Today is Monday. Gonna try the vlog every day. I'm sorry I say that every time. And I also am sorry that I say I'm sorry. Okay, let's reset. Let's start with hello my friends. Welcome back to my channel. We have a new reading vlog this week and I'm excited. I'm excited to have some new books to read and yeah. I already am kind of starting the week off with a bang. The audiobook I'm currently listening to is Mission Improper by Beck McMaster. This was on my June TBR. I'm trying to do a better job of getting through those books that I put on my TBR. And I'm really enjoying it. This is a steampunk romance. So it has like a historical, almost like a Regency era feel. It's set in London in a historical setting, but you have like the steampunk, so, which hasn't really gotten into the story too much yet. Like, there's been a little bit of a mention of certain characters that have steampunk like tarps, like Clockwork Hearts and things like that, but it's not an integral part of the story yet. I am about 30% of the way through, and I'm really enjoying it. I think the narrator is really good. I think it's a very fast-paced, action-packed type of read, and it also has a really good, like, a mysterious plot going for it, and the two lead characters are experiencing a ton of delicious chemistry, so that is really fun. So, this book follows Ingrid, who is a Verwolfen woman. So basically, it sounds like she's a type of werewolf. And then we have Byrne, who is a blue blood. So, this book is the first in Beck McMaster's spin-off series from her previous steampunk series. So, I do think that it probably would have been better to start with her original series because it definitely feels like when I started this that I was kind of walking into a world that was fully developed and that I was already expected to know, so that's kind of a little bit of a downer. But I'm not lost, I'm catching on as we go, but it also feels like I'm missing some elements of the background history. Like, it definitely appears like the hero and heroine have some history that probably happened in the original series. But I didn't really want to go back that far. Like, I recently read Beck McMaster, her Fae romance series. I think it's A Curse of Darkness, A Promise of Darkness. I love that book. I've read the first two books in that series and I loved them. They are some of my new favorite fantasy romance books, and if you are looking for good fantasy romance, I highly recommend those. They're fantastic. So I've been wanting to read more of her backlist, and this one just kind of caught my eye, so I put it on my June TBR, and I'm really liking it. The basic plot of this is that Byrne and Ingrid are both sort of like excellent bad guy catchers. Like, they don't necessarily work for anyone, but they are sort of like elite do-gooders at bringing evil people to justice, basically. So they end up joining this society that is working to try and find out who is behind these families that are disappearing from the East End of London. They're disappearing and they're assuming that they're killed. So they're trying to find the murderer behind that. And so they've joined the society and they're working together. And Ingrid and Byrne definitely have a little bit of a history where it sounds like they had a very almost extremely steamy encounter, like definitely a lot of foreplay getting there. And so there's this heat and tension between them from page one, which is very, very fun. Like, I really am enjoying that a lot. Like, especially Byrne, the hero, is just literally on fire for this woman. Like, and she's very much like a bad A type of female character that I really enjoy too, and it's just very fun. I'm really liking it. I love her writing. I think that she's really great, and honestly I haven't read too much steampunk other than, you know, I read the Cassandra Clare series, but I also read Gail Carriger's Soulless, is that what it's called? The Parasol Protector series. I really liked that. And yeah, this book was published in 2016, so I'm liking it. I'm really, really enjoying it. So it's a solid, fun, super engaging, fast-paced read. It's really, really great. So the next audiobook that I'm going to pick up is Indigo by Beverly Jenkins. I figured I would vlog my reading experience of this. This is one of my very favorite historical romances. I read this last year around June. Before I even had a YouTube channel. I had a Bookstagram, but I wasn't really talking about romance books. I was still sort of mostly posting about fantasy and YA books. So I read this in June of last year and just fell completely in love with it. And then I reread it in the fall, both of the times I used the audiobook, because the audiobook for this is stellar. This is such a beautiful story. The narration is fantastic. I just am in love with this story. It's just so beautiful. This book follows Hester and Galen. Galen is also known as the Black Daniel. He is part of the Underground Railroad and helping the enslaved people become free at that time. And he becomes injured and he goes under Hester's care, who is sort of, she's also a freed slave, and she is, well, actually, Galen was never an enslaved person, but Hester was, and she's now free. She used to work on the indigo farms when she was a slave, and so the palms of her hands are stained blue. And she ends up taking care of Galen, and their romance is it's so beautiful and just sultry and swoony, and I just love it so much. So I will vlog my reaction to reading this. This is the Rake Appreciation Society book for June, and that live show will be on my channel this week. You'll probably miss it, but you can rewatch it. But when Jen and I were trying to decide books we wanted to read in the future, I suggested that we read a Beverly Jenkins because I love her books, and I know that Jen hasn't read her at all. So this was Jen's first Beverly Jenkins, and she really loved it. So I'm so happy about that because this is one of my all-time favorite historicals. It's probably in my top 2 or 3 favorite historical romances. I just adore it. It's so... He's being so loud. It's so beautiful and just stunning. So this will be next up to get ready for the discussion. I'm super excited to chat about that. And then I also just received on my Kindle, I just got an ARC for Say Yes by Candy Steiner. I am so excited about this. This has artist characters, and I believe this is set in the 90s, and I love Candy Steiner. I haven't read a lot of her backlist, but I really loved her What He Doesn't Know series. I just loved that so much. So I'm very excited for this ARC. That's going to be the physical book that I'm reading this week. So yeah, I've got some really great... Hi, baby. Wanna come here? I've got some really great books that I'm reading already on Monday and are going to scratch me back. And yeah, it's a good start to the week so far. So I will check in as I finish books and have more to update you about. Do you want to come say hi? Do you want to come say hi? You do? Hello. I'll see you guys in a bit. I'm watching Jess's video about her finding her new all-time favorite romance authors, and she picked Scarlett Pickham, who we both love, and I'm so happy that she loved this book. I have 2 drinks because, you know, I have a lot of drinks. And then I got this yummy salad from a grocery store that had a salad bar, and it doesn't look very yummy now because I've ate all the yummy bits, but it's good. Okay, let's have a reading update. Today I'm having one of those days where I'm just like completely peopled out, like, and I haven't even really been around people that much, but I'm just like, how about we just don't talk and we just like hang out and stuff instead? How about that? How would that be? I'm just like, can we not, wow, this clip is a mess. Can we just not people right now? Can we just not? Anyway, reading update. So I have about 2 hours left of Mission Improper by Beck McMaster, and I am really liking it. I I really think that she excels at building tension in her plots. I feel like her plots are always pretty fast paced. She has a lot of intrigue. Her fantasy world is not like so complex that it's hard to get into, but it's also not so simplified that it feels like weak at all. Like I feel like she does a really good job of building a rich, deep fantasy world. This one has vampires and werewolves and an overarching mystery to find out who the killer is. So it's very interesting. And the hero and the heroine in this, Byrne and... I can't remember her name right now. Ingrid. They are like, one is a werewolf and one is a vampire, so they have that sort of tension in their relationship too. And there is a lot of sexual tension between them. Like there's a lot of heat on page, like they both want each other so much. And I'm liking it. Like it's fast paced, but it's not 100% holding my attention. And I feel like the big difference for me in this book compared to her A Promise of Darkness series, I'll put a picture right here of that series, which I have already read and dearly loved. That was the first book of hers that I read. The main difference between Mission Improper and that book for me, other than they're completely different, like, fantasy worlds, like, Promise of Darkness is a fae fantasy, whereas this one is definitely, like, a historical Regency setting with a little bit of steampunk, and then you have, you know, very, very relatable paranormal creatures in it. But the thing that I absolutely loved about A Promise of Darkness is that the whole focus, the driving force in that book, the driving plot thread is the relationship. And there's a very interesting relationship dynamic between the hero and heroine that the whole entire plot revolves around. And it's just so... It was so interesting and so satisfying watching that relationship play out on page. Like, I just loved it so much. And I want more people to read it. It's an underrated gem. If you want a fantasy romance, please go read. And this one is, like, there's tension in the relationship, but it's more of a, we just want to, like, bang each other, you know? Which is fine, but it's not enough to really get me invested in the story, you know? Like, I was hoping for that rich, detailed relationship building that was in my doggo. That was in A Promise of Darkness, and I don't feel like that is at the same level here. So I think this will probably be a solid 4-star read. It's still very enjoyable. I'm liking it a lot, but it doesn't compare to how I felt while I was reading A Promise of Darkness. So I'm almost done with that one. And then I also picked up the Candy Steiner arc last night. Picture. I think it's called Say Yes. I can't remember. Y'all know that I literally check to see titles and names before I start here, and then I talk to you and my mind just goes. But this one is very interesting. The heroine is an artist, and she was born with a disability. Like, her right hand was never formed. So it's just, she found her bone. It's just, this is my senior dog back behind me. I'm not going to show you her because she's definitely approaching the end, and it's very sad and very hard. And I don't show her on camera much because I don't want to have to come on here and tell you that it's so emotional for me. She's an old girl. She's got a lot of health issues. Anyway, she's chewing her bone right behind me. I keep her separated from Kazi because she has back issues, and he's so rambunctious that I'm afraid he'll hurt her. So that's why he's always in my studio. He's not always in there. He's always with me, but I'm usually always in my studio working. Anyway, I digress. The Candy Steiner book. So the heroine is an artist. She's a painter. She was born with a deformed hand. Like, there is a word for it, which I will put on the screen, for her disability that she's born with. So it's basically that her hand isn't fully sized, except some of her fingers are. And so because of that, like, she definitely has felt like she needs to be perfect to make up for, in her mind, to make up for her disability and not being able to be perfect. And so she's an artist. She's in Italy. She's an art student, and she is a very talented artist, but she keeps painting these perfect paintings for what her professor is assigning her. And her professor is like, okay, these are perfect, but there's no soul here. There's no, like, I want more. I want you to express yourself. I don't just want perfect paintings. And so she's kind of on a journey of self-discovery. And there's a man in her class who is a little bit older than her. She's in her early 20s, and she said that he is like early 30s. So there's maybe like a 10-year age difference. And he is like the complete opposite of her. Like, his paintings aren't perfect, but they're so passionate and they're so bold and they're just so like sultry, you know, and he captures so much emotion. He ends up being like the professor's star pupil, you know. So there at the time, right now, like, she's kind of like, oh, I hate that guy, you know. He just paints boobs all the time, and the professor just loves him. And so she's definitely a heroine who's kind of becoming unbuttoned and trying to find how to express herself, and I really am enjoying that journey. And right where I stopped, I was reading it today, right where I stopped, I'm about 20% through. She is just having a meeting with the hero, and when she's she's decided she's going to go live life, explore Italy, and just sort of embrace whatever opportunities come her way. And she meets Liam, the hero, as she is out and about, and it's very good. Like, I'm really loving this. I love Candy's books. I think that I love how she writes angst, and I'm very excited to see where this one goes. This one is fun because it is set in the 90s, and so there is some description about the fashion that she's wearing that is very 90s-esque, which is really fun. So that's a reading update for you. I'm going to finish Mission Improper, and I need to go film some YouTube videos. I need to get to work, and then I'll update you later.
Hi, buddy. Come on. Thank you. Want to come here? Oh, thanks.
Hello, welcome back to the vlog. I have a reading update for you. I finished Mission Improbable. What? How did I forget this one? I cannot remember titles to save my life. I finished this book today, and I gave it 5 stars. Okay, so like the last third of this book completely won me over. It was so good. It was like the action was like ramped up, and I'm not really a reader who loves action. I'm definitely more of a character-driven reader than a plot-driven reader. But like the whole mystery of the plot, like who is responsible for the murders, and how does this type of creature happen, and where does this virus come from, and what, like all these questions that have been like asked throughout the whole book, like the virus that causes like vampires and stuff, are starting to get unraveled and answered, and I was like totally into it. But the thing that really put it over the edge for me was the romance, because like I know I said earlier that this wasn't necessarily, like, the relationship wasn't the driving force, and I feel like that's still true. Like, this is still more about the plot. However, this romance completely sold me because they were so, like, antagonistic towards one another. Like, they didn't want to have feelings for each other. They just wanted to, like, bang it out of their systems, you know? Like, And so when they finally start to show a little bit of vulnerability and that they actually have feelings and care for one another, it just did things for me. It did things for me. It was so good. There were 2 caretaking scenes, and I don't even know if caretaking is the right way to say it. You know, like when one of the couples was in mortal danger and the other person was there, like, scared that they were gonna lose this person that they hadn't told how they felt about them yet. Like, oh my gosh, I love that so very much. It was very well done, and it was on both sides. Like, both sides of the couple got to experience that, and we got to read it, and it was so good. It was very good. This really exceeded my expectations, if I'm being honest. Like, I would fully recommend this book. I think it was fantastic. It was very entertaining. The romance was, there was some delightful steam. It was honestly one of the best fantasy romances that I have read. And I would say it's probably more paranormal romance because it has vampires and werewolves, but like very, very good. Very good. Highly recommend this one. Very much enjoyed it. Also, the thing that I also liked about this is that we have the hero who is touch her and I'll kill you. But we also have the heroine who is like, touch him and I will kill you. And it was so great. Like, it was so fun. It was very good. I very much enjoyed this. Like, This was worth it. This was worth the read. This was a 5-star read. I take it back when I said it was a 4-star. I feel like that's been a pattern in my vlogs lately. I start to be a little critical, and then it gets to a point and I'm like, okay, you've completely sold me on this book. It's very good. I loved it. It was so great. Honestly. Now I need book 2. I have to see if it's on audio because that was so good, you guys. I'm really surprised at how good that was. So, okay, now another reading update. I'm still reading Say Yes by Candy Steiner. I am really enjoying this. This is very much an emotional read, an emotional journey, and it's very, so I'm about 40% of the way in, and I'm liking it a lot. Like, I'm really into it. I'm really invested in these characters, but it's also like very slow burn. But it's also very sensual, I would say. It's a very slow build. But there are moments of beautiful sensuality, too. I'm liking it. I'm liking it a lot. But it is very... It has Candy's... You know, she really deals with emotional issues. And sometimes I feel like... Sometimes they are a little over the top, you know? As in, it just seems like... drama, or maybe not drama is the right word, but like tragedy. She puts in these characters' backstories that they have, so they have all this emotional baggage that they're dealing with. And sometimes it feels, and I don't want to say unbelievable because I know terrible things happen, but it does definitely feel like you just, honestly, a lot on these characters, you know, like... But I'm still really invested in it. I do like the heroine and the hero. I'm really invested in the story. I love the setting. It's a beautiful setting in Italy. And they're artists and they're painting, and that's really good. And I will say, like, I am an artist. I have a professional background in watercolor, oil, and acrylic painting. And so I approach this with a critical eye because I'm like, please don't, you know, like, don't do that thing where it's clear you haven't researched what it is to be an artist. And I would say that... I think that she has presented the artistic side of this in the best way possible for someone by someone who's not an artist, you know, like the way she talks about painting, and like it all makes sense to me. So I'm liking that a lot. So yeah, this is a good one. I have high expectations, excited to continue on. The next audiobook I'm picking up is Indigo. This will be the 3rd time I have read Indigo. This is for the Reiki Appreciation Society. I never vlogged my experience reading this before because I read this before I had a channel, and I read this after I had a channel for the 2nd time, but before I was regularly vlogging, so I'm gonna pick this up next. I love this book so much. I say that this is required reading for historical romance lovers, and if you haven't read Beverly Jenkins, read this. It's so beautiful. So that's the next book I'm gonna read. All right, I gotta go pick up my kids and run a bunch of errands, so I will see y'all in a bit. Hello, my friends. I have a few reading updates for you. Kazi is sniffing my jacket. What do you smell on my... It's not a jacket. On my sweatshirt? What are you smelling over there?
Wanna come here?
No. He's gonna get his toy.
Oh, thanks. Thank you.
I will just hold this for a minute. Let's see how long he... Not long at all. Okay, reading update. So, I finished Indigo, of course. We just had our live show last night. We have a discussion, it's up on my channel, where we talked about Indigo, and I love this book. I was going to update more as I was reading this, but I kind of just got busy and also just swept up in the story. I love this book so much. I feel like Hester and Galen's love story is so romantic and beautiful. Oh, I love it dearly. Like, there are so many small gestures that Galen does in this book that are just so swoony and romantic. I love it. I feel like I think I mentioned this before, like, I feel like if you are a historical romance reader and you have not read Indigo yet, you need to read it. It's so good. Loved this book so much. This is probably in my top 3 historical romance favorites of all time. Or at least top 5 for sure. I love it so much. So, and then I read more of my Candy Steiner arc, Say Yes, and I only have like, I believe I have like an hour left of this in my Kindle. And I'm a little conflicted about this. I was reading it last night, and this book feels very heavy emotionally. It feels really angsty in a way that I don't love. I really like angst, like I do. I love angst, but there's something about this one specifically that just feels very depressing and a little bit hopeless, and I don't love that, you know? Like, I feel like I am not afraid to read about emotionally heavy topics. Some of my very favorite books this year had some extremely heavy emotional content, like Still and Real by Kennedy Ryan. But those books were both overwhelmingly hopeful. Like, the hope that is laced through every single page of that book was immense. Both of those books, you know, and I would say all of Kennedy's books, but I would also say that's true of a lot of historicals that I read that are angsty as well. Like, I feel like that's a difficult balance to strike with angst. It has to still be laced or threaded with some level of hope, you know? And part of me wonders if that is a result of me having already read all of Kennedy Ryan's books, so I know that she's going to deliver on a very satisfying, hopeful, happily ever after. Whereas I have only read 3 of Candy's books before, and it's been a very long time since I've read them, so I'm not sure how I feel about it yet, other than I will say, as I was reading it for a couple of hours last night, when I put it down to go to sleep, I just felt so down, and I hate that feeling. That's not why I read romance. I read romance for the opposite, you know? Like, last year, early on in March, when everything was going down and the world was, like, on fire, basically, not really, but, you know, like, it was scary, and nobody knew, you know, we didn't really know what was happening, and anyway, I remember, like, I have anxiety anyway, and I just remember, like, not being able to turn off my thoughts and being awake all night and being so anxious and so worried about what was going to happen to my family, and, you know, and that was when I picked up The Duchess Deal by Tessa Dare, and that, when I read that, I couldn't put it down, and as soon as I was reading that, all of those anxious thoughts just stopped, and I was able to sleep, and I felt, like, hopeful and happy and peaceful again. And, you know, I've been a romance reader my whole life, basically, off and on. I have not been as passionate of a romance reader, as open of a romance reader since March of 2020. You know, that was when I was finally, like, when I had that moment and I realized the power that romance books, and specifically Happily Ever Afters, have for me, I became passionate about reading romances, and I talk about it all the time, and I never looked back, you know? Then last night, as I'm reading this Candy Steiner, this is the first romance book that I have read since March of 2020. I got some new clothes in the mail. Kazi's checking them out back there. This is the first romance book that I've read since March of 2020 where I have literally felt kind of hopeless about it. And it's not even necessarily, I don't know, it's just so sad. Like, and I feel like I can't tell you why without spoiling it, but I will say that the hero, Liam, has suffered devastating losses that he feels very responsible for. And the heroine has, you know, I mentioned that she was born with, her hand wasn't formed all the way, and so she has a disability, but she's dealing with a lot of perfectionist tendencies, and she's really questioning the love of her parents and where she fits in the world. And it's not even necessarily the feeling that I'm getting isn't necessarily what the subject matter is. It's more the tone. Like, it feels, it's beautifully written, but it feels too much like a literary fiction book. And as far as the feeling I'm getting from the writing, you know? Just, I don't like it. So that's definitely going to affect my rating, and I feel really bad because I was very excited to get this arc, but oh no, my lights just went out. Let me see if I can fix them. There we go. But I'm not gonna lie and say that, I don't know, like that, I feel like that's That's why I get so angry when a book is sold as a romance and it doesn't have a happily ever after. That's what I'm here for. You know, I'm here for the promise that things are going to be okay. I don't care that they're not in real life. I know that they're not, or that they can be. I want my happily ever after in my romances. Anyway, so I have an hour left of that I'm going to read. It's been a very busy last few days with work. I make little sculptures for my Tumble Creatures business. I haven't talked about them in a while just because I've been trying to keep these vlogs more about books. I don't know why. It's not even that I've been trying to. I've just felt very overwhelmed. So putting in more content that isn't just me talking about the books just seemed a little more overwhelming than I was willing to do. But that's what I've been doing the last few days, is getting ready for my shop update and new creature designs. And I want to show you this because I'm very proud of it. It's very cute. I made an elk. And you're probably wondering, well, that's a strange little creature to make. But isn't it cute? And I am doing like a monthly collectible thing where every month, although I have skipped a few months because overwhelmed with work and just it's been very stressful. But I'm doing like an alphabet series, so I do creatures starting with that letter of the alphabet. So this month it was E, so I did elk and a certain breed of horse, which I also really liked. Anyway, that's what I've been doing, and I've just been listening to audiobooks nonstop for the last few days. I always listen to audiobooks while I work. I feel super grateful that I can do that. So yeah, I have an hour left of the Candy Steiner book, and I know there will be a happily ever after, right? But the journey to getting there has been very depressing, and I don't love that. So in other news, the audiobook I've been listening today is Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark. I read the second book in this series, Stolen Air, during the Mafia Romance Readathon, and I wanted to read more of Sophie Lark's books. I wanted to get more of a feel for her as a writer, so I started at the beginning of this series, and I really am loving this. Like, I definitely am enjoying it a lot. Is it going to be a 5-star read? I don't know. I kind of doubt it, because I've only got an hour left, but it's for sure a solid 4-star read for me. This is a very much enemies to lovers. We have, they're like feuding mafia families, which is, you know, very common in mafia romances. And then they have an arranged marriage because the heroine pulls a prank at a party of the hero, and their parents decide, okay, well, you're going to marry each other to stop any scandal. And so it's really like the plot of it is kind of non-existent. It's really just them trying to work on being married, which is fine. I like that, you know, like there's a lot of like an antagonistic, like I feel like I will say that I think that this Enemies to Lovers is done perfectly for me. I really, really like their dynamic, in that it's not too much hate to love, like it's just enough, like, and I also feel like, and this is something that Sophie Lark is very well known for, is that she has very powerful heroes, very alpha men, but her women are equally as strong, and I can definitely feel that here. Like, they're equally matched. She's not your typical mafia heroine who just kind of is quiet and timid. Like, no. Like, she's sassy, sarcastic, and at times she can be a little off-putting because she's so out there, but also I'm actually really liking that because she is not backing down to this man, and she is, like, standing up for herself, and I appreciate that. I really like the dynamic there. I think that it's really interesting, and it's just really working for me. So I'm liking this very much. The hero is Aiden, not Aiden. Ada is the girl. Callum is the guy. Callum is very, very protective and a little bit possessive and jealous, and he doesn't even realize that he has feelings for her yet. So he's just like possessive on the type of like, hey, you're mine, and I don't know. It's good. I'm liking it a lot. So those two books, I think, are all I'm going to include in this vlog. I'm going to tell you my final thoughts on both of them, on the Sophie Lark and the Candy Steiner. And yeah, this has been a very good reading week. I've really loved going back and reading Indigo. Indigo just feels so, even though the subject matter is so, it's heavy, you know, like the Underground Railroad and the lives of the black people at the time, slavery and the freed people and the people who were caught, and it's heavy, you know? And that was something that I mentioned in the live, is that I feel like Beverly Jenkins did such a beautiful job of capturing the beauty and the pure happiness and hope of true love with Hester and Galen. Like, there were so many beautiful moments between them, and that was contrasted really well with the constant threat of danger that Black people were in at that time, and the very, very harsh reality of slavery and the after effects of that. You know, I feel like it was just a beautiful dichotomy of those two concepts together, and I think that Beverly Jenkins it's a masterpiece. I think that it is a masterwork of historical romance, and I just love it so much. I love it so dearly. So that is all that I have to talk about right now. I feel like I didn't update you, and then I had a whole bunch of stuff to say. So I'm going to go finish those books and then wrap this vlog up and let you know my final thoughts. I'll see you in a bit. Hello friends. Okay, let's wrap up this reading vlog. So, I finished both Brutal Prince and Say Yes. So let's talk about Brutal Prince real quick. So this is kind of going to be a shorter wrap up. So I ended up giving Brutal Prince 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this. I felt like it was very fun. It was very action-packed. It was very fast-moving. It was very, consumable, you know, like it was very readable. It was very fast-paced. It was one of those books that wasn't one that I necessarily needed to have a break from or put down, and it was fairly short. I really liked this. It was a solid 4-star read. It was very fun. The only thing that didn't make it a 5-star read for me is I felt like there wasn't a ton of relationship development. Like, it definitely seemed like we went from enemies and hating each other, and then all of a sudden obviously they lusted for each other, and then they were in love, you know? And I just don't really love that a whole lot. That's never gonna be a 5-star read for me. I need them to fall in love, you know? And I just didn't feel like that was there. It was still a fun read. It just wasn't a super emotional, satisfying read. It wasn't a satisfying read on an emotional level, you know? It was very fun, and it was very enjoyable. And something that I really liked about this, I know that Sophie Lark's, like, her tagline is basically, she writes intelligent women and powerful men, and that is exactly what this was. You know, I really loved the heroine, Ada, how I know a lot of people think she's unlikable, but I really liked her because I felt like she was an equal to Callum. And I felt like the power dynamic here, even though she was in an arranged marriage and he did have more power, it didn't seem vastly different like I feel like can happen in a lot of Mafia romances, and I think that is something specifically that I did not like about the very first Cora Riley I read, which was Bound by Honor. I felt like the power imbalance there was just too vast for me to really enjoy it, you know? And I feel like that isn't always a hard pass for me, because there are books that I love where they're not equally balanced in power, but it's when that hero doesn't take advantage of that, and he kind of is more receptive to gaining her trust instead of like forcing her into things because of that power imbalance. Like that's something that I really enjoy reading, but yeah, so that can go wrong in a lot of ways, but I felt like they were very equally matched. Like, she was an equal for Callum, and I really, really liked that a lot. So that was a good one. That was a fun one. I'm going to continue on in the series. I did get the third one, so I plan to listen to that soon. And then let's talk about Say Yes by Candy Steiner. So my Goodreads review for this is a 4-star read, and that's largely because I feel like it is a really beautiful story. I feel like it's a beautiful story about our heroine, Harley, and how she sort of comes to terms with her perfectionist tendencies and embracing herself for all of her flaws and everything. Like, I really thought that her journey was beautiful, and that's really why I gave it a 4 stars, because I felt like her journey was beautiful. But that's also why I didn't give it a 5-star, because this felt very much like almost like a women's fiction novel where it was 99% about her own personal journey and the romance was very much secondary. Like, it's tricky because of the relationships that she has with Liam and how he is the one who sort of initiates her into that yes night where she says yes and she tries all these new experiences and she breaks out of her perfectionist tendencies. You know, like, he is the catalyst for getting her to do that and try new things and sort of embrace imperfection and find happiness and joy and passion along the way. Like, that is crucial to her self-discovery and her self-acceptance. But also, I just didn't really love the romance, you know? Like, that night was crucial to her. But I felt like there was much more focus on her journey and her story than on them together as a couple, which is not what I'm looking for in a romance. And so that's why I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And if I feel like I'm being generous at giving it 4 stars. I feel like it's probably more like a 3-star. It was really a bit of a downer, honestly. Like, this is one of the few romances that I've read where I feel like I did not feel better after reading it. It was very much a downer, I felt like, but it was still beautifully written, and it was a beautiful story. I just feel like it would be better marketed, in my opinion, as women's fiction, because then I feel like you go into this anticipating a personal journey for the heroine, you know, for Harley. And I was really expecting I expected the angst to be more of their relationship and what would keep them apart. And that was a small part of it, but largely the angst was about Harley's personal journey. So a little bit disappointed with that one. Still a beautifully written book and a beautiful story, and I really loved the setting of Tuscany. I thought that was really fun and just lovely. And I also really liked the 90s setting. I thought that was very unique and very fun. So that was a good one. I enjoyed that a lot, but it definitely was probably my least favorite book. It was definitely my least favorite book I read this week. It just was, you know. My favorite by far and away is Indigo. Oh, Indigo. My beautiful, beautiful Indigo. And then I also really enjoyed Mission Improper by Beck McMaster. That was very fun and very surprising and just a good time. I liked that a lot. And I also really liked the Sophie Lark one. That was really great too. So that is where I'm going to end this reading vlog. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed coming along with me and seeing what I was reading and my thoughts about it. And I'll see you next week for another one. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see y'all in my next video.